So Wesley played e4, and they played a Spanish and or Ruy Lopez. Somebody do a marker or something.
Tensor usually gets it.
Ooh, okay, what movie is he quoting? That ain't no Hank Williams song.
I don't know.
Good reference. Blues Brothers.
I didn't even know there was a Hank the Third, Ace Deuce.
Who's worse, Hank the Third or Godfather 3? Oh, snap. Okay, so they played the Spanish and or Ruy Lopez. Now, I don't know why. I don't. If I knew why, I would tell you. In this tournament, in both sections, the Challengers and the Masters, A6 is being played and nobody's playing the Berlin. So I don't know what kind of tournament that is. Well, like the last 10 years, they played the Berlin. So I don't know what's happening. Now, it is true against knight f6, we can sort of avoid the endgames by playing d3, which I've been recommending for like 15 years. And I think about half the GMs play this and half castle. But yeah, they're just playing the closed Ruy, which, white's obviously a little better, frankly. Okay, this is the main line. And then in this position, black castles, because super GMs always want to play the Marshall Gambit, and if allowed, they will. Thanks, Fen Beingold. I think for the most part, most super GMs believe the Marshall Gambit should lead to a draw, and they have it analyzed to move 25 in most variations. So it's actually more common for white to avoid the Marshall than to allow it. To allow the Marshall Gambit, you play c3. And then this is the Marshall Gambit. There's 100 trillion GM games. I think Marshall, when he played it against Capablanca, played knight f6. But c6 is the main move now. And they play d3 and d4. It used to be they only played d4. Then they only played d3. And now I think they play both. But I think d3 is more common now. And then you have to know theory to move 30, otherwise you're finished. And most GMs avoid that, and they play an anti-Berlin line like knight c3 or d3, or in the game a4, threatening ab. And if white plays ab, black's prospects are negative. Hello.
I got it.
Yeah.
We can keep it going.
Just hang loose, blood. Okay, so here, black can play rook b8, bishop b7, or the move that was played, b4. In this position, Wesley played the very interesting move, a5, which discombobulates black's pawn structure, so black can't play a5 himself and be solid. Okay, and Keymer had a very interesting way of playing this position with black. I'm not familiar with this position, and so maybe what Vincent did is reasonable. Now, it turned out Uma Thurman, I don't know if you know this, you probably saw it on Twitter. Uma Thurman was at Vikonsé today because she's promoting a movie in the Netherlands, and she, not rang the bell, she did something for the opening of the round. And then during the game, she kept saying, Vincent, Vincent, and they kicked her out of the room.
I knew it wasn't a real thing.
I can't believe it. Why would she do that? Later, she met Vincent at the disco. Man, that was a complicated reference. Who's Uma Thurman? You're banned. I have been in Berlin. I was in Berlin when it was East Berlin and West Berlin. God damn. That's when I was in Berlin. Okay, so he played the move rook b8. And eventually, he has a very unusual idea that Karen will approve of. Karen will be like, what? His idea is to play rook b5 and then take this pawn.
Well, I was worried about the pawn as soon as I saw that and sort of thinking about that they might target it. Mm-hmm. And then the rook, I don't even know what they do. 'Cause
Right. So while black is wasting his time taking this A pawn, we have to punish him in the center. We can't just play D3, knight D2, H3. We'll be down a pawn. And then Karen will be like, why am I down a pawn? So Wesley played D4, already making a threat on E5. And then they traded everything, which the engine agrees with. And now we don't take back right away because then black can play D6. We play E5 first, so the knight has to go somewhere not so good. So he played knight E8. Queen takes D4. Rook B5. And even though there's no knight here, so you can't like take the pawn directly, black wants to play C5, attacking the queen. And then and only then can we have the exchange of sex for discounts. Get that reference? That's a tough one. Even the chat's gonna have a tough one with that. There's hundreds of people in the chat, but they're gonna have a tough time with that. Very good, Grunge Wart. Seinfeld, Bishop takes Kramer. Yeah, Kramer said that Elaine was dating a guy, and the guy worked at some clothing store, and she wanted discounts, and he wanted sex, and then Kramer said, look, you guys have to understand the exchange sex for discounts and so forth. Okay, now, so there's nothing really Wesley can do about that, and black is wasting a lot of time taking that A pawn, which isn't the most important pawn on Earth. Right. And, these pieces are a little iffy. It's not, sort of passive. Mm-hmm. Okay, so Wesley played bishop C4, and that way if the rook moves away, you can't play C5 and so forth. And he played C5, of course. Queen D3, he took the pawn. And black is up a pawn, but, it's this A pawn. This is backward. This is a nice bishop. My knight has some good squares. And the engine says that white is slightly better. Even though black's up a pawn, it's not so dangerous. Thanks, I don't know what that is. Anon Z4. Thank you. Okay. So he played queen C7, which the engine agrees with. Start pushing the pawn, maybe. Knight F3. H6, stopping bishop G5 and knight G5. Bishop F4. Queen C6. And when I was watching the commentary with Svidler and Howell, they thought, and I don't agree, but I don't agree with them. That means they're right and I'm wrong. They thought, white has to prove his compensation and black's going to be better soon. Black's going to play knight C7, knight E6, bishop B7, A5. Black's up a pawn. The knight on E6 is good. And they were dissing this knight. 2446. Thanks, Puzzle Pawn. He donated 2446 because I weigh 244.6.
Oh, nice. Hey,
so
Puzzle Pawn.
if I had gained weight, we would have got more money. Damn.
How's it going, Puzzle Pawn?
You could take the pawn on A6, but that lets black equalize pretty easily because white's giving up his beautiful bishop. He's taking this useless pawn. He's letting black escape in the center, so forth. So in this position, since Wesley has a reputation of occasionally drawing every game, and he has drawn every game this tournament, they thought when this sequence was happening that Wesley would be happy with a draw. So they were like, okay, here, here, here. Okay. And they thought Wesley would play here. And they were like, if Keymer wants a draw, he'll go here. And maybe Keymer wants to win, he'll play something else. Now, they were wrong. Wesley didn't want to draw. Wesley played queen F5. Wesley had no intention of repeating. And this position, in my opinion, and I'm not as good as Howell or Svidler, so maybe they don't agree. This is harder to play for black than white. White's position looks pretty good to me. Black's position looks bad, but he has an extra pawn. So I'd rather have a good position than a bad position. And the engine says it's equal. Okay. He played bishop b7, which is the engine move. They traded. And now this pawn's difficult to defend, so he attacked it with the rook. And when I say difficult to defend, you can't defend it. Okay, so he played knight c7. The engine says this is great. Rook takes d7. And finally, one of the players made a mistake. There's two moves here that are sort of obvious, and he picked the wrong one. Okay, first move is rook d8. Thanks, Fester 100. Then if you take the bishop, rook down here is going to be mate. Mm-hmm. The other one is queen c8, pinning the rook. And you have to choose which one. And he chose the wrong one. If you play the right one, it's all zeros, equal. If you play the wrong one, you're lost. Like 1.5. Thanks, Fen Beingold, for gifting a sub. And he played the wrong one. The truth hurts. So he played rook to d8. Okay, and that's not as good as pinning the rook. Now white has a free move, and white doesn't want to get checkmated here. Mm-hmm. So he played h4. Now he's threatening to take the bishop. Okay, and this has an equal material, so you would really prefer to have white here. Okay, and now this is the problem with queen c8. Thanks, MJ Chess for you, for 5 subs. Wow, that was a great gift.
Thank you.
Okay, now this is super complicated. So if you're watching at home, pay attention. If you play queen c8, which looks like we'll start trading pieces, I throw a monkey works e6, a monkey wrench into the works. Okay, let's analyze. If you take this, that pawn's too strong. You can't do that. Okay, if you take with the knight, your bishop's hanging. So ipso fatso, you have to play fe. Okay, now I take the rook with check. If you take with the bishop, I take this pawn, and black's position's in shambles. Terrible position. And equal material. So black takes with a queen, and now white has the very strong queen e5. And you're attacking the knight. You can't defend the knight. And if you move the knight, then your e6 pawn hangs with check. And then here comes knight e5, and bishop e5, and h5. And this position's not good. Okay, so queen c8 in the previous position when it was correct, in this position when it was the right move. Okay, now if you play e6 like in the after rook d8, that doesn't work because here I can't play rook takes rook check. So now my rook's hanging and my queen's hanging and I lose. Black's winning here. So that's why queen c8 was better, because we don't have e6. Now in this position, we have time to stop back rank mate, and we're threatening this, and queen c8 is bad because of e6. Okay. However, these guys are pretty good. So he played the best move, which is I always recommend, g6. Trying to get the queen off of the rook. Queen d3, staying on the rook. Queen c8. These are all the best moves. Takes, 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 takes. And now material's equal. And white plays bishop takes h6. And white's up a pawn. And the engine says, if both sides play perfectly, probably black can draw. Probably. And this is a Wesley So kind of position. A pawn up, better, trying to win an ending. And young players like Vincent Keymer, that's not, he don't want this position. He wants activity and complications and so forth. Okay. So black played a5. That's fine.
They say they can't hear the board sounds, which is true. I just noticed we can't.
I agree. Some people never want to hear the board sounds.
I like to.
Okay, let's go back.
Svidler was pointing out that he thought black had enough with pushing the a pawn.
Yeah, I think so. No, the silent clicking mouse is bad because this mouse is better. All right. You guys complain when there's no board sound, and you complain when there's a mouse sound.
I thought I heard it faintly just then.
Oh, yeah, I hear the sounds too. Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah, just chess.com.
That was chess.com. We didn't do anything.
Okay. So, yeah, in this position, black probably has enough to draw, maybe. But it's a practical game, It's not an exercise in futility.
We have a good mouse.
Yeah, our mouse costs more than your mouse. Also, you didn't get that? That's a Pulp Fiction reference. When they were eating at Jack Rabbit Slim's, and then she says it would be an exercise in futility to not be, intrigued by the question that he has.
Darn, I'm blanking out on the kind of mouse it is.
Yeah,
I forgot the kind of mouse it is.
it's a razor mouse.
But there's a specific
Right, and then you can shave with it too.
kind.
Well, Tim Roth and Amanda Plummer is a different restaurant scene. This is the restaurant scene with Uma Thurman and John Travolta at Jack Rabbit Slim's. Amanda Plummer and Tim Roth weren't in Jack Rabbit Slim's. They were at some coffee shop. So you're banned because you don't know the movie as well as I do, which basically means you're all banned. Okay, so A5, B3, otherwise, A4, A3, Papa John's, right? And people don't like Papa John's, so yeah. So B3, knight B5, these moves are all fine. Bishop C1, the engine doesn't like Bishop C1. And now it says black should play C4, which is explosive. And then after takes, knight here, forking the two pawns. And you can't take this because the A pawn's too dangerous. So it's no good. Black's winning. Okay, but instead of playing C4, he played knight A3, which is also reasonable. Okay. And Wesley, in this position after knight A3, he played the only move that gives white any advantage at all. There's two moves you should consider. You should consider knight E1 defending your pawn. And then you should consider the right move. Because knight E1 hangs the H4 pawn. You can't just let him take this.
Right. Let me see what happens if you take that.
Inglourious Bastards and Django Unchained are equally good.
I can't do that.
I am the best guy to learn from. Champagne saucy. Correct. I hope your champagne's not saucy. Don't get saucy with me, Bernays. Avatar 2, First Blood.
Darn, I don't know.
Okay, you move your C pawn. So you can play C3 or C4. C3's okay. C4's a little bit better. You can't take on Passant because you lose your knight. Okay, so you played C4. Black played A4, which is the engine move. Very good. Excellent move. And after A4, white did something that I really like. Although the engine seems confused. Yeah, the engine went crazy. It's it's on the wrong. Let me change because it's okay. Good. Okay, so I really like the next move because it teaches an important lesson, which most people are confused about. So now I will confuse you less. The engine broke again. I like when the engine breaks. That's funny. Okay, so
What happened?
well, what happened was the engine thought it was listening to a Led Zeppelin song. And it thought the Gotham chess was streaming. And when that happens, you know what happens?
Yeah.
The levee breaks. Yeah.
But
The
what
engine's
happened-
broken. It says A4 for white and F6 for white. It's white can't make those moves. Okay. The engine's gone crazy.
It seems like chess.com's really struggling lately.
Okay. So in this position, I really like Wesley's next move. I'm not saying it's the best move. I'm saying I like it. What he did is he played a move that meets the demands of the position. Most people, when a4 is played, they stare at the a4 pawn and they stare at the b3 pawn. Okay? And Wesley looked at another pawn. What Wesley wants to do, either here or the next move, is play knight to d2 to take care of this issue over here. However, as I said earlier, when I suggested knight e1 defending the c pawn, black could play bishop takes h4. So before white plays knight d2, Wesley played g3. So now, if you take the pawn, which is the correct move, then I play knight to d2. And now the engine says this is equal if black plays the move nobody should ever play, f6. Because by trading pawns and keep trading pawns, it'll be a draw eventually because there's no pawns on the board. Always trade pawns. Okay. So in this position, black played a very bad move, and Svidler and Howell were beside each other because they were sitting next to each other. No, I think they're from somewhere else, so that not really. They were like, what kind of move is this? And I must say, I would never think of this move. Right? I'm not good enough to think of this move. So I would just play a takes b3, and then, Wesley would probably beat me, but it'd be close. Okay, he played knight b1 with the obvious idea of, pushing the pawn. Problem with knight b1 is in this position, if white ever plays b takes a, then black plays knight takes c4, and black has two connected passed pawns. Probably black's better there, even though there's a pawn down. But after here, I can just take on a4. So that was a very weird move. When I say weird, it's bad. And his first mistake was rook d8, and it looked like maybe he could draw after that. And then this is his second mistake. There's too many mistakes because he has the black pieces. He's playing Wesley. Yeah. Okay. So b3 was played, which is also a bad move. And this is the only counterplay. Black eventually is going to push his pawn and win a piece. So Wesley played king f1. He's going to scoot over there. Bishop a5. Bishop b2. Otherwise, I can play bishop c3 and b2. So you have to play bishop b2. Knight c3. Knight d2. It all just works out. And so the main variation is you take this pawn, I take this pawn, you take this bishop, I take this bishop, and I'm defending my pawn. And then I have fortuitous on the other side, so I win. Okay, so instead of trading bishops in this position with knight takes b2, he played bishop b4, bishop c1, and then he played knight b6, and he wants to take this pawn. And Wesley played an excellent move here. And I remember when they were analyzing, they were suggesting like bishop d2, knight takes, bishop takes, pawn takes, f4, and they thought white should probably win that. But Wesley played better. He played knight d2. Now, if black does nothing, white plays king to d3, and black resigns. It's 2 pawns up, and you have nothing. So he has to give up the bishop and win this pawn. Bishop c3. MJ chess for you. Thanks for the 200 bits. And the reason white's winning this position, not only is white up a pawn, but very important, the bishop controls the queening square of this h-pawn, which is could come in very important later. Otherwise, black could trade pawns and sack a piece and leave with the bishop and the wrong colored rook pawn, but it's not the wrong colored rook pawn. So this is a very easy win for Wesley, and he won very quickly. Move his king up the board. Then he moved his pawn majority. And then he played bishop d4, trapping the knight. The knight has nowhere to go. And this is a common geometric pattern. Bishop here, knight here, bishop here, knight here, bishop here, knight here, etc. Okay. And he played c3, king d3, king d5. Now, all the play, the last 6 moves or so has been over here, but white can get a passed h-pawn, so he played h5. And if you can stop that pawn, you're a better player than I am, because it can't be stopped now. And the funny ending of the game was c2. So if you take the pawn, I take the bishop. And he took the pawn, because if you take the bishop, I make a queen. Mm-hmm. And now, if white wasn't queening, like if somehow black does this, I don't know, black cheats, okay, then king d3 wins your knight.
Oh yeah.
So you're losing here, and you're losing here. Both beat you, so so he resigned. That's good resigning.
That's a pretty good game.
Right. So Wesley played almost perfect game, almost, and Keymer made like 2 moves that were mistakes and maybe 3 or 4 inaccuracies. And still it took 51 moves to beat him because these guys are tough. They put up a good fight.
Great analysis, says holy water.
Yeah, Wesley's good. The reason I like Wesley more than other super GMs, which isn't necessarily true, but the reason I'm like, go Wesley, is when we won the Pro Chess League World Championship, Wesley was on my team. Like, he was the team. God damn. And we beat Magnus's team in the last round. Although Magnus beat us 4-0. The rest of his team did not. And as it turned out later, it sounds like I'm going to make a joke now, but I'm not. You can back me up.
About the cheating.
Yeah. As it turns out later, I lost the last round to the president of the Norwegian Chess Federation, and he was cheating. He cheated against me.
Pointed that out to you. I should get a little credit for that.
He cheated against me.
I saw it tweeted that he resigned from whatever chessboard he was on, and I said, "Hey, weren't you on the team during all that?"
I like the way Magnus beat us 4-0. The guy on board, the guy cheated against me and beat me, and we still won the match easily. We won with a big score.
Yeah, because Wesley's so good.
Yeah, what happened was he later said that he had cheated, and somebody else knew. Somebody was helping him. Somebody was giving him the engine moves. So there was an accomplice, and about a year ago, he said, yeah, I cheated in that match. And I was like, well, it must have been against me because he lost his other 3 games. So,
and I think, didn't he come forward with a confession, but he didn't have to.
He didn't say it was against me, but...
I know, but I'm saying in his confession, I think he was just out of the blue. Maybe
right,
he
yeah,
was
that's
feeling
true.
bad about
Right,
it or
yeah,
something.
Yeah. Well, that was like 6 years ago on chess.com, so I don't think... I feel better about losing to him in the last round because I almost cost us the championship. I didn't know we had already won. I didn't know that we had won on 2 of the boards and Magnus won against, whoever, Wesley or something. I don't know. So I didn't know we had won the match already. So I was really nervous in my game because I'm paired down and the guy's beating me. So, yeah. I don't know if he was president then. I think he was. He became president later. But he could have been president then. He was president later of the Chess Federation. Yeah.